Thank you, Hannah and Victoria. Our next presenter is Lily Carroll. Lily Carroll is a senior at Dartmouth High School. She's on both the winter and spring track teams. She's involved in the Poetry Club and is co-vice president of the HS chapter of the National Honor Society. Outside of school, she enjoys painting, taking her dog to the beach all seasons. After high school, she plans to attend college and major in biology, but not quite sure what she wants to do when she grows up. We'll figure it out as life goes on. Life sciences have always been her favorite subjects in school, so she hopes her interests will help her find a future career. Lily chose her TED Talk subject matter because she is very passionate about the issue and hopes to educate you on the downfalls of American corrections facilities. Lily hopes to evoke change through education and starting a dialogue with peers in her community. Although public speaking is not in Lily's comfort zone, she wanted to be part of this awesome experience because many of her friends were speakers at TED last year, and all of them had a positive and memorable experience, which Lily hopes will be her experience too. Please welcome Lily Carroll to the stage as she presents Incarceration Nation.
All right. The United States is a nation best known for its freedom. It is a free country, but the US could also easily be considered an incarceration nation. Let me start off by showing you two pictures. Now I want you to take a look at this first picture and make some inferences. Where is it? What is it? Just keep these answers in mind. Now I want you to make those same inferences about this picture, but I also want to think to yourself, is it in any way similar to the previous picture I had just shown you? Believe it or not, these two photos have more in common than you may think. The picture on the left is your average jail cell in Norway. The picture on your right is an average jail cell in the United States. Now you may be looking at the picture on the left and thinking to yourself, how does this even work? Shouldn't jail be a punishment? Shouldn't jail be awful? Here in the US, we think of jail as a degrading, dehumanizing, and dangerous experience. But what if it wasn't? What would that look like? Here we see prison as a trap. Those who fall into the system typically become bound within the vicious cycle of reincarceration upon release. The United States prison system values punishment over reform, but does this really work, or are we using a broken system? In Norway, their prison system is centered around reform and changing its inmates to become functioning members of society. Norwegian prisons treat their inmates like human beings rather than animals. To quote Arne Nielsen, the owner of Bestøy Prison in Norway, people look at prison as an arena for developing responsibility. Here in the US, we treat prison as a place to contain criminals, not change them. But this ideology does not work. According to Business Insider, 707 out of every 100,000 Americans are incarcerated, as opposed to in Norway, only 75 out of every 100,000 people are in jail. Between 1980 and 2015, the number of incarcerated people in America increased from roughly 500,000 to over 2.2 million. The United States is only 5% of the world's population, but makes up 25% of its prison population, making us an incarceration nation. 39% of the nationwide prison population, a little under 600,000 people, can be released according to a team of lawyers, criminologists, and statistical researchers brought together by Time magazine to study this injustice. Of this 39%, 25% of prisoners, almost all non-violent, low-level offenders, should not be in prison, but instead should be receiving treatment, doing community service, or be under probation. The other 14% have already served long sentences for more serious crimes and should be released. According to this information, our tax money is going towards containing prisoners who do not even need to be in jail. A substantial factor contributing to our incarceration nation comes from outside the prison walls. Biased prosecuting attorneys, the inability to make bail, or becoming trapped in the system all contribute to mass incarceration. Also, private prisons treat jail like a business. They profit from the incarceration of immense amounts of people. According to Brookings Institute and the NAACP, by the time an African-American man without a high school diploma is in his mid-30s, there's a nearly 70% chance he will have spent time in prison. Although African Americans and Hispanics make up approximately 32% of the US population, they were 56% of all incarcerated people in 2015. What's really shocking is that although 5 times as many white people report to using drugs as African Americans, Black people are incarcerated at 10 times the rate of white people. The statistics reveal a racial bias within the criminal justice system. Not only is there a racial bias within the criminal justice system, but a class division has developed because of the option of bail. Bail allows dangerous criminals to essentially pay their way to freedom, while those who cannot afford it become trapped within the system. There is currently a lot of controversy around bail. People realize it essentially punishes the poor and middle class while favoring the wealthy. The conflicts that plague the United States prison system do not remain on the outside. The physical conditions of prisons in the US are degrading, dehumanizing, and simply disastrous in any chance to reform. This is a picture of an average American prison. It is so overcrowded that not everyone receives a cell. People have to live and sleep out in the open. Inmates are stripped of their already limited privacy. Prisons and prison officials overuse solitary confinement as a punishment. According to the New York Times, 75,000 people in the US are held in solitary confinement and face the detrimental emotional and psychological effects it reaps. People held in long-term solitary confinement suffer from anxiety, paranoia, perceptual disturbances, and deep depression. Those who are held in solitary confinement are much more likely to commit suicide than those in the general prison population. Suicides among people held in isolation, who account for 3 to 8% of prison population, account for 50% of all prison suicides. These statistics clearly reveal the detrimental effects solitary confinement has on inmates. The expectation that people spend 23 hours a day with little to no human contact and come out better reformed people is just absurd. Solitary confinement is used to punish, not reform, and many of the people who enter do not deserve its consequences. The inhumane prison conditions that are found within the prisons nationwide strip people of a sense of privacy, dehumanize them, and essentially treat inmates like caged animals. This mistreatment develops a mindset of destroyed self-worth and pointlessness towards actions. We treat criminals like animals and expect them to become functioning members of society upon release. This ideology is ineffective and unsuccessful when trying to limit crime through incarceration. Upon release, prisoners find it difficult to adjust to society. Although prison can be seen as a life-changing experience, many ex-cons cannot say prison helped rehabilitate them. Not only do the statistics show a positive impact that the reformation-based prison systems have on people, but inmates see a change within themselves. Here are a few quotes from inmates in Norway. "They helped me to understand why I did what I did and helped me to live again. I know the potential for people here to change. I wish I had not done it, but now I must pay for my crime. Now I have no desire for drugs. When I get out, I want to live and have a family. Here I'm learning to be able to do that." These prisoners reveal a responsibility and understanding of their actions through the reformation-based prison system, and it is unlikely many of them will reoffend. Once convicted, those who enter the system are often trapped within a vicious cycle of reoffending. Once someone has been convicted, they lose many rights on the outside, such as voting, traveling abroad, employment rights, public social benefits, and parental benefits. According to the National Institute of Justice, the rate of reincarceration in the United States within 3 years of release is 67.8%, and within 5 years of release, it is 76.6%. On the other hand, in Norway, the reincarceration rate is only 20%, one of the lowest in the world. Clearly, Norway is doing something right. Something is clearly ineffective about the United States prison system. We can begin to reform the system through education, both of the prisoners and those on the outside. Although education programs exist, the prison system, many people still do not recognize its importance. I've done extensive research on this topic throughout my high school career, and I've come to the conclusion that the US is in fact an incarceration nation. We throw people in jail as a solution to crime, but we do not focus on understanding and rehabilitating those who commit it. Perhaps if we follow the influence of our Norwegian counterparts and treat prisoners ethically, we can make them feel more like human beings and hopefully evoke the humanity within them. Thank you.